I was gonna get that next guest up here. Oh my god, yeah, Dirk's one of the worst. We bring him up here every like blue moon just to shit on. Wait, we got Law of the Wild in. What's up, Law of the Wild? Did you want to talk to Dirk? Hello?
I did. Now that he's gone, I will go. But
Oh no, bro! I'll bring Dirk. I just kicked him. If Dirk hops back in that queue, I'll bring him up here to talk to you. He is. I'll let you talk to Dirk. I'd like to see that conversation.
Hey,
unfold.
Law of the Wild. Are you some
Quickly.
sort of like libtard lawyer who defends domestic terrorists? Is that your job?
Okay. Well, Dirk. The first thing I'm gonna ask you to do is to refrain from using variants of the R word on my live stream. Okay?
Well, under Trump's America, we could say that now. By the way, I don't know if you got that note.
Just not in Dean's stream. Okay? Because that's the ground rule. Either you accept it and talk to Law of the Wild.
All right, go ahead,
you
lawyer.
Don't
Go
accept
ahead.
it. So I just want to make sure that you are accepting that as a rule, correct?
Well, I won't say it again. I promise you, Dean. I promise. I'm on my knees promising you. I won't say
you're accepting that
the
rule.
big bad
Good,
L
good,
word.
Good.
The big bad L word that strikes fear in so many.
Yeah,
Go ahead, lawyers.
I think that this
Let's see what you got.
I think that this is a decent place where we don't use variants of the R word. But go ahead, Law of the Wild.
Well, you didn't grow up in Xbox 360 days. Okay, go ahead, lawyer.
all right. So I think we've established that at the time Pretti was shot, he was disarmed, right? You don't disagree with that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So what threat of death or great bodily harm can somebody who's disarmed pose to law enforcement?
Well, I mean, I think it is a matter of the perceived threat. I'm surprised I have to tell a lawyer this. That's interesting. Well, I mean, being that you are like some lawyer who defends domestic terrorists, I'm not completely surprised.
I'm actually
But
going to go pee real quick, guys. I'll be right back.
The fact that these federal officers perceived the threat due to the fact that he had a confirmed firearm on him and he was resisting arrest and committing multiple different felonies at once was the reason that they were able to put him down. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff here. You're a lawyer.
Yes. So how can an officer perceive the threat when they watch him being disarmed right in front of their face?
So you know that they all saw him get disarmed? Do you know that for a fact?
It literally happened right. The two officers that fired, the agent that took the gun, it literally happened right in front of their face.
Well, you understand we watched that video at 0.25% speed, right? You understand that 0.25 times speed? You know?
Yep, I understand that.
Wait, hold on. Just to be clear, you understand that and you're still giving this argument.
I understand that, but here's the thing. What you're arguing is not that the shooting was justified. You're arguing that there was a reasonable mistake.
A reasonable mistake does not constitute murder. You understand that?
Yeah, I didn't say
Okay.
that it was.
Well, that's what Dean is arguing, right?
Yep,
you know that?
Yep, Dean is arguing that it's
Okay,
murder.
so you would admit on this live that Dean is wrong and he's misguided, correct?
I would not admit that. I would
Why
say
not?
that.
Well, you just admitted that to me. Why can't you admit it when he comes back?
Okay, let me finish my sentence, and then you can respond.
Go ahead.
I would not argue that it was murder because there needs to
you hear that,
be
Dean?
proof that there was an intent to kill, and there has to be no defenses. I have to go with legal definitions. I'm a
Dean,
lawyer
you hear
in
that?
Minnesota. I'm a lawyer in Minnesota, so I'm precluded from making those types of judgments. A member of the public can absolutely come to any conclusion that they want. And all that a murder in the second degree is that it is an intent to kill without justification.
Okay, so Dean, did you hear that? Do you think it's murder, Dean?
Yeah, what I heard is a lawyer explain that they could lose their bar card if they were to say that it was murder, especially considering the fact that he's actually barred in the same state that this occurred. That's what I heard. And I think that that's
not what he
reasonable.
said.
And I also think the
He
way
just said
that
the
Law of the
public is
Wild said it. Let me interpret what the Law of the Wild said there. I think the way that Law of the Wild said it is also very meaningful because what he said is, I can't say it's murder until they could prove intent in court. Not that they could prove it's unjustified in court. Yeah, of course I think it's murder because an argument for the notion that it was unintentional would be to argue that the agent unintentionally reached for his gun, unintentionally grabbed his gun, unintentionally pulled out his gun, unintentionally pointed the gun at Alex Pretti, then unintentionally pulled the trigger. But there's actually one thing that I heard that I really want to
hold on,
lawyer.
No,
No, there's
lawyer,
actually
right.
Oh, we got to let him calm down, guys.
Lawyer, is he right?
We gotta let him calm down, everybody.
You're spreading fake.
If your calm down exceeds 30 seconds, I'm gonna kick you. Like seriously, you just need to be able to regain composure in under 30
You're
seconds.
losing
to be able to
hard.
stay here. Nope, just because I want to be able to speak.
Yeah, but you just said lies.
I'm sure that you understand.
You just said lies. You just said something.
Okay, all right. Well, feel free to prove my lies wrong once I'm done. The
Well, I'm
world's
asking-
not ending right this moment.
I'm asking the
You
lawyer
have,
friend.
you have like 10 seconds left, my dude. I think that he's gonna run the clock, so I do kick him because he knows he's cooked. Never mind. It looks like he regained self-composure. So, anyways, here's the really important thing that I want to hone in on here, because when I leave to use the restroom, if you could tell, I unplug this mic, and I also connect the audio of the stream to speakers, so I could just still hear what's going on in case somebody does some crazy shit. Okay, it's my live stream, and I heard this guest say that he actually conceded to Law of the Wild that it was a reasonable mistake. But see, this is the opposite of what he said starting the conversation. Starting the conversation, he did not say that it was an unfortunate yet reasonable mistake that led to the death of Alex Pretti. He said that Alex Pretti was a domestic terrorist who got what he deserved. He said that Alex Pretti was a domestic terrorist who was justifiably put down by the ICE agents. So
Thank God.
I know that you're a complete idiot, so I'll spell it out to you. The sentiment that Law of the Wild was able to get your ass on, it was a reasonable mistake, not a justified shooting, just a reasonable mistake, okay? Is
You understand a
diametrically
reasonable
opposed
mistake
to
can still be justified, right?
and contradicted to the notion, okay, that Alex Pretti got what he deserved. Or
He did.
But how could it be the case that he got what he deserved if you're also
Well, you're
conceding
thinking
in the same breath that it was a reasonable mistake?
Well, you're under the impression for some reason that reasonable mistake is mutually exclusive with justified.
Well, I
was
think
still
that reasonable mistake is mutually exclusive with him deserving it. Like, if you're going to
Well, he
argue...
did deserve it.
Well, how can you
provoked it.
argue that he deserved to
He
die
provoked
if
it,
it
that's
was
why.
a reasonable mistake?
He provoked it. That's why.
So he
Let-
provoked them into
let me
committing a reasonable
separate
mistake?
things here.
Yes,
Feel free to hop in here.
by resisting arrest and committing felonies while armed. Yes.
All right, so a couple of things. Oh, wow, that was wild. So a reasonable mistake does not turn an unjustified shooting into a justified shooting. It is a defense for an unjustified shooting. So meaning that you can't be held criminally responsible for a reasonable mistake. So it doesn't mean that the shooting was justified, because there's no situation where an unarmed person who can't pose a threat of death or great bodily harm can be justifiably killed. There is the argument would be if the officers could say, well, I didn't see it, or I didn't know, or I thought he had a second gun, whatever.
That's called being justified. You understand that? I mean, I don't know what law school you went to. I didn't go to law school, by the way, but if you look up the definition of justified, it's very, very simple. Having done for or marked by a good or legitimate reason. Oh, I don't know, maybe having a suspect wrestling with me with a firearm that I think they have on them. I believe that's a good or legitimate reason to take them out, don't you think?
Okay, so if there was a murder 2 charge, it would be the allegation would be an unjustified killing. That's what would happen. All that you need to do to prove murder 2 is an intent to kill, and that it was unjustified. His defense to
without
that
a good
charge
reason to kill them
would be that
I agree.
there was a reasonable mistake that he was armed. Now they haven't said this. This is I'm steel manning your argument that that there was.
Well,
a
that's
mistake.
why you're making sense. Yeah, you're steel manning my argument. The one time you make sense.
Hey, Dirk, I've counted 15 interruptions from you over Law of the Wild, and I've counted 0 interruptions from Law of the Wild over you.
Which is surprising because he's a lawyer. That's his job.
So do you think that you could stop interrupting him?
Well, I mean, I'm having friendly banter with this guy. But go ahead, lawyer. Go ahead.
Okay, but can
Make your case.
you make that acknowledgement? Can you stop interrupting him?
You know what? I'll stop interrupting him. Go ahead, lawyer.
Good boy.
So, yeah, so it's a defense. So all that they need to do is prove that there was an intent to kill, and pulling a trigger at somebody satisfies that element. You intended to kill them. and then that there was not justification for that. So a justification would be like a self-defense claim, something along those lines. That would be a justified element to overcome an unjustified killing. There is no argument that shooting somebody who is unarmed and not posing an active threat is a justified. It's unjustified, but the defense is a reasonable mistake. That's what you're arguing with. And so it's completely incompatible with your argument that he deserved it because he posed an active threat. If somebody who's disarmed cannot pose an active threat.
Okay, let me give you a scenario, lawyer. Let's say I am walking up to two officers and I have a gun in my hand, very readily visible. And the millisecond that I drop the gun, I hold the gun out and I drop it. The millisecond I drop the gun, officers shoot me. Is that justified? Yes or no? I'm pointing the gun at them, but I release it from my hands. But that millisecond after I get shot, is that justified or no? Because technically I'm unarmed. It wasn't in my hand at the time. Would you say that's murder and unjustified?
It's not. It wouldn't be unjustified because they would have been justified to use deadly force at the time.
Even though he was unarmed?
Right, because they were already justified, and there's not enough time for officers to realize that the firearm no longer posed a threat. If you're talking about a millisecond,
Now you're
if we're
making
talking
sense.
about 1 to 2 seconds when the gun was removed from the person right in front of their face, and they never presented that firearm as a threat. That's an entirely different scenario. So you did create a wonderful straw man there for you to attack, but it's not what we saw before our own eyes.
Okay, so just to be clear though, if it's 1 millisecond,
I'm actually
it's
just going to hop in here as well.
if it's
I'm gonna
1
add something
second,
on
it's
to
not.
what Law of the Wild said there. So Law of the Wild's response just kind of went over like reasonable reaction times. But I want to add on there that there's a really big difference between the hypothetical scenario that you just reported and what is like true of Alex Pretti. Because in this hypothetical scenario, you supported an idea of a legitimate threat to the LEOs, which would be somebody like pulling a gun and pointing it at them. Okay, right? That would be an imminent threat to their lives. And I honestly think that your use of this hypothetical is an implicit concession that Alex Pretti did not purport an imminent threat to their lives, because where was Alex Pretti's gun before it was taken from him? Merely in a holster. Okay? Right? And as we already went over at the beginning, it does matter. It does matter.
Of course it
There's
doesn't.
case law on this subject, dude. You are dumb.
Oh, there's
You are
case law.
wrong. Yes, there's case law on this
All right,
matter.
so I could just walk up to federal
Courts have ruled
with the
that
gun and
merely being in possession of a firearm, okay, is not, okay, an imminent threat. Now, if you are brandishing that firearm, pointing that firearm at them, then it does become an imminent threat. But that's no longer mere possession. So mere possession, like having it holstered on your hip like Alex Pretti, is not an imminent threat, and courts have already ruled on that. Can you please
Well, you guys are making the argument
your
that
last
he was
claim when you stated that the way in which that firearm is being possessed does not matter? Can
Well, you
concede
guys
that?
are making the distinction.
I don't want to hear while you guys. I want to hear a yes or no. Can you concede that or not?
Well, again, you guys were saying that armed versus.
I don't want to hear a you guys yes or no. Can you concede that claim or not?
Well, again, you guys were saying armed versus.
I don't want to hear you guys. I want to hear a yes or no.
Well, again, you guys were saying armed versus unarmed is the biggest distinction.
Can you please answer my question?
Well, why are you not responding to what I was? You interrupted me to ask a silly question. Can you
now
answer
you're
my
trying to find
question
a way
first?
so now you're trying to find a way to run away from it. Stop running away, Dirk. Okay.
I'm
It's
explaining
clear.
the reason.
You just said that
Well,
it
you keep
didn't
muting.
matter.
You're the one, right?
Okay.
clear,
If
you're
that gun was
constantly
being
muting.
brandished and pointed in the direction of the LEO or being merely holstered, I then told you it absolutely does matter. There's case law on the subject matter. When it's merely being held in possession, okay, like in a holster around your waist, you are not purporting an imminent threat. Courts have already ruled that it is murder if an LEO kills you in that circumstance. I just want you to concede that claim when you said that it doesn't matter where that gun is on one's body, or if it's being brandished or not, being pointed at them or not. I want you to concede that that is absolutely relevant.
Well, it's absolutely not in terms of the analogy I just gave, because you guys were using the argument, the fact that he was unarmed is the reason this was unjustified. I was simply bringing up that analogy, not because it pertains exactly to the Pretti situation, but because it proves that simply being unarmed doesn't mean it's unjustified. I'm surprised I have to explain this to you. This is a very simple analogy. It's kind of surprising you needed that spelled out for you, but that's the reason I brought it up. I never said it was completely identical to the Pretti situation.
So I'm surprised that I have to explain this to you. But my first comments were to go over that, law of the wild down here brought up a reasonable/unreasonable reaction time. But then I was building on top of that because something that Law of the Wild left out there is that even if his gun wasn't taken away from him seconds before he was shot and killed, it wouldn't matter because it was merely being held in possession.
What if he was reaching for it?
Let's just see if we could clear things up. Can we agree that when you are merely in possession of a firearm, that absolutely matters and that LEOs do not have justification to kill you?
All right, so you want to get owned again? You just said
I either want a concession or a rejection of
wouldn't
the
have mattered if he
that merely being in possession of a firearm does not give substantial reason to an LEO to kill you. Do you affirm that premise?
What if he was reaching for it?
I don't want to want it.
Well, I agree with that. Simply being
okay.
I
so
agree
you
with that.
affirm that
Simply
premise?
being in possession of a firearm doesn't mean that you get a shot. That's correct.
So then you affirm that Alex Pretti's firearm is not what gave good reason to the officers to kill him.
That's not the situation.
You affirm that merely obstructing is not what gave the officers good reason to kill him. Okay.
Resisting arrest.
And then your earlier argument, that this man was somehow reaching for his gun. Well, you affirm that you cannot substantiate that position because you asked me to play video of the shooting from the woman's perspective wearing the pink sweatshirt in the back. And inside of that video clip, it very clearly did not show Alex Pretti reaching for any gun, and you even conceded on that. So insofar as our conversation goes to right now, do you concede that you've presented zero evidence, that Alex Pretti's shooting was either justified or a reasonable mistake?
Well, I think we all saw in the video he was resisting arrest violently against federal officers while he was armed.
So
and
that's
the fact
what made
that
him
these
reasonably
agents
mistake?
were well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, getting
so
in the
resisting
middle of a
arrest
federal
means you could shoot
operation
someone?
while you're armed and you're
Wait, but we've already gone over that.
Of
We've already gone over that. Merely being in
course.
possession of a firearm or merely being in possession of a firearm and resisting arrest does not purport an imminent threat. And by the way, this notion that it would purport an imminent threat would yield the conclusion that his shooting was justified, but you're actually holding to the conclusion that it wasn't that it wasn't necessarily justified insofar as the reason being that he was purporting an imminent threat, but rather because it was a reasonable mistake. So Dirk, you're actually the one that's quite confused. Do you think that his shooting was a reasonable mistake because they thought he was reaching for his gun that he didn't have, or do you think that his shooting was justified because he was resisting violently, quote unquote, while being in possession of a gun? Which one, Dirk?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm surprised I have to spell this one out for you.
Which one,
well.
Dirk? Was it a reasonable mistake or a justified
means that
shooting
the
because he was
officers
purporting
thought
an
that
imminent
he had a
threat?
gun when he didn't. Right? It's a
Okay,
reasonable mistake
but
to
see,
assume
the
that
thing
he's...
is that wasn't your last argument, because your last argument is that he's violently resisting while being in possession of a firearm, and that's what gave them good reason to kill him because there's an imminent threat being purported. But it can't be those two things at once. Was it a reasonable mistake because they thought that there's an imminent threat being purported, but they were reasonably wrong? Or, was it a justified shooting because he truly was purporting that imminent threat? Which one, Dirk?
Both. I already said before it's not mutually exclusive.
Wait, those two things are mutually exclusive. Because if you listen to the words that just came out of my mouth, then you would have understood that under the framework that it was a reasonable mistake, it entailed that he wasn't actually reaching for any gun that could kill them because he didn't have it. They just reasonably mistook that fact. However, under the second view, that it was not a reasonable mistake, but rather justified for the reason that he truly was purporting a real and legitimate threat, those two things are mutually exclusive. Because in scenario one, he's not actually purporting that legitimate threat, but they just reasonably think he is and they're mistaken. But in scenario number two, he is legitimately purporting that imminent threat. So you, sir, are dumb and wrong. Those two things are mutually exclusive and can't be true at the same time.
Of course they can. You're just not following. I don't know. You have
this guy's an idiot.
Much smarter than that.
Dirk, listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Can he be purporting an imminent threat and not purporting an imminent threat simultaneously?
Tell me what justified means.
No, you're not answering my question. Can he be purporting an
I'm seeing
imminent
if you understand
threat
English.
and not purporting an imminent threat
I'm just making
simultaneously?
sure you understand English.
Sure, you could do that after you answer my question.
You're thinking
can
this
he,
is
Can he
mutual-
really be purporting an imminent threat while simultaneously not really be purporting an imminent threat
How do you not
simultaneously?
get this? How do you
Your
not
answer is
understand
yes?
this? Yes,
You
obviously.
just affirmed that contradictions can be true. I literally just, dude, oh my God. You just
planet do you
affirmed
live
that
on,
contradictions can be true. You just said that A can be true and false simultaneously. All that I said, can it be true that he was purporting an imminent threat and false that he was purporting an imminent threat simultaneously? And you said yes. You just said that contradictions can be true. Hey, Dirk, define the word contradiction.
It can be a reasonable mistake and justified.
No. Define the word contradiction.
Well, now you're pivoting. I mean,
no, this isn't a pivot because this is what I'm saying that you just engaged in. You just said that contradictions can be true, so I want to make sure that you even understand what a contradiction is, insofar as you understanding what my argument is. So it's not a pivot because it is essential for you to understand what my argument against your position is. Define contradiction.
You do this for a living and you can't even follow a very simple concept?
You're the one that just affirmed a contradiction, stop the projection, and define the word contradiction.
You're pivoting so hard right now.
I've already explained why it's not a pivot. I understand that you probably need it explained to you twice, so I got you. The reason why me asking you what a contradiction is not a pivot is because my argument is stating that you are affirming a contradiction, therefore your view is necessarily false, but I think that you're a really dumb guy and you likely don't even know what a contradiction is. So this is an essential, necessary, clarifying question about the position in which I'm using to defeat your view. So once again, Dirk, tell me what a contradiction is.
Yeah, saying it's justified and
no, muting because you're not answering my question. Define contradiction.
Yeah, again, saying it's justified.
You're not telling me what the definition of a contradiction is. Dirk, define contradiction.
You're pivoting so hard.
Once again, this is the third time that you've accused me of pivoting. The third time I'll repeat the response insofar as why it is not a pivot. The reason why me asking you what a contradiction is, Dirk, you're not going to be able to hear me. You're not going to be able to hear me if you're speaking over me. Pipe down, bud. I'm trying to explain to you how it's not a pivot. You're lashing out like a child. You're going la 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 la. If I talk while he's speaking, he'll never be able to make a point.
Who's the one worked up?
Thank you, Dirk. The reason why me asking you to define what a contradiction is not a pivot, is because my counter argument against your position is that your position is a contradiction, therefore it's necessarily false. And of course, you understanding what a contradiction is necessarily important for our conversation to continue. That is why it is not a pivot, but rather related to the argument by its own nature. So once again, what is a contradiction? Yeah, so again, your lack of comprehension makes it... I'm sorry. I muted you because of the terrible ad hom. Just start without an ad hom. Just tell me what you think a contradiction is.
Sure. What does the word justifiable mean?
Sure, after you tell me what the word contradiction is. That's a pivot.
Well, you asked this question after I asked you.
Okay. No, I'm asking you this question now because you affirmed a contradiction, and that's debatable.
You pivoted into this.
All right, Dirk. I've already explained 3 times how it wasn't a pivot. Here's the 4th and final time I will explain to you how me asking you what a contradiction is not a pivot. My argument against your position has affirmed that you are saying contradictions can be true. Okay, any view in which would affirm that contradictions can be true are necessarily false because contradictions are always false. The reason why this question, what is a contradiction, is not a pivot is because it is essential for you to understand the position I'm using to prove your argument wrong. Now that you have nowhere to run to, now that you have no more claims, have no more pivots, I'm going to ask you to define that word. Define the word contradiction now that you've had a minute or two to look it up on Google.
Okay. All right. So you know what? I'll admit this. I did look it up on Google, but I'll answer the question just to make sure we're both whole. The definition of contradiction: dodging and shifting. Rather than directly answering a potentially damaging question, the speaker pivots to a topic they prefer to discuss. Strategic reorientation. The speaker uses a bridge phrase to connect the moderator's question to their preferred topic, creating a quote-unquote pivot point. Controlling the agenda. It allows candidates to keep the focus on their core message, even when asked about uncomfortable or unexpected subjects.
Okay, stop describing what you're doing and define the word contradiction. I don't know how to help you, Dirk. You're going to need to define the word contradiction.
All right, give me one more second to find another example. Hold on.
That wasn't the definition of the word contradiction.
Hold
You were
tight.
just literally like naming off like different logical fallacies. Like the dude just literally looked up logical fallacies and then just started like reading them off.
No, it's the
Dude,
definition of a.
I think it's because he doesn't know how to
didn't
spell
even
the
get the
word
joke.
contradiction.
You didn't even get the joke. Wow, that's bad.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a joke. That is true.
You think that you think I was naming logic?
Here's the
that
last
was
chance you
logical
have
contradiction?
to
That's
tell me
definition.
what a contradiction is. So
Okay, go. All right, 1 second. It's a cognitive bias where people with limited knowledge or
not gonna
competence
do
in a
it.
particular
He's not gonna
domain
do it!
greatly over.
dude, I fucking owned you, Dirk. I fucking owned you.
That's
okay?
the Dunning-Kruger
I'm your daddy,
you are
Dirk.
experiencing.
I'm
That
your
you are
fucking
experiencing.
daddy. I'm your biological father. I fucking owned you. Get the hell out of here. We're going to move on to the next guest. Get absolutely, completely owned. Just absolutely destroyed. Okay? Completely destroyed. Oh my God. Unfathomably owned. He refused to define what the word contradiction meant. By the way, folks, if you ever find yourself in a position where somebody is stun locking your argument into the affirmation of a contradiction and you can't argue otherwise, you're as fucked as you can be. You cannot get more fucked in a debate than forced into arguing that a contradiction can be true. Like, you can't get more fucked than that. So just insane own. Probably like top 5 ever. Now, Law of the Wild. I'm sorry that you didn't get to have too long of a conversation with him. I just had to take the reins there and really set him down.
No, you're good. I set the pins up and you knocked them the fuck down. So good job.
I appreciate you for coming up as always, dude.
Anytime. Take care.
Take care. All right, we're gonna get that next guest loaded up into the box. Absolute decimation, man. Unreal, dude. Moving on to the next guest, we got Chelsea loading up into the box, folks. Make sure if you're inside of that queue.